All right, so we are, I think, right at the top of the beginning. We have 40 minutes today, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, this session is being recorded, so exciting. I will be looking at the chat. I will also be looking at the Q&A area, and then we can get through some of those questions toward the end. Like I said, we have 40 minutes, and we'll use about 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. We're going to turn this over to Brenda Tolbert, who is from Arizona State University, been with ASU for 8 years. I'll give him a little bit of an intro here. I asked him for some brag statements, and he said, hey, I started my Salesforce career in earnest here at ASU, which speaks to our learning and growth mindset. So yes, very much so, being that I'm also at ASU, and of course, you know, his goal is to keep his inbox pretty clean. He says it's mostly clean, but anyway, Brandon actually also shared some content with us last year. So thank you for joining us again this year, Brandon. I'm so grateful to have you here again and sharing some additional content. And with that, I am turning it over to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me back. I was actually surprised to hear the call back. So thank you so much. Everyone, I am so grateful that you're here with us today. I hope that I've prepared a wonderful presentation for you that'll be hopefully enlightening and entertaining. So sit back, relax, and get those questions ready. Before we get started, just wanted to share just a smidge about me. I am with ASU. I lead the admin team at our Ed Plus kind of division. We specialized in distance learning. That's kind of our main use case here. I want to focus more about what we do, though, and what we have. We've got a wide smattering of products that have attached to our Salesforce ecosystem in order to make sure that we're able to meet our users' expectations. We do a lot with a mighty team, and very happy to be here. Thanks so much for having us. Let's get started. So the main crux of my presentation today is really just about showcasing the power of a problem coupled with the power of Salesforce, coupled with the power of a great team who really just wants to get things done and add value to our stakeholders. So when I originally had this presentation, I was thinking about having it in the style of a 90s infomercial commercial, but I figured there would just be too many people flipping the channels. So we're just going to keep it kind of professional here, but a little bit loosey-goosey. So thank you. Here we go. So what's in it for you? In our first section, we're going to explore the problem of the dupe. So what the dupe? If you're a customer-facing, if you're an externally facing Salesforce, you might have run into duplicates, but we're going to level set with you on why duplicates are kind of a problem within our org, and we're going to level set with you as what the landscapes look like. I believe Bob Ross, put it. There's no such thing as a duplicate, just a happy little solution. So with that, we're going to then round into the whys behind the I's. Why is this why is this needed? What value are we hoping to bring? And why are we actually doing this work? We're going to show you a little bit about the solution that we came up with, and then we're going to risk it and go with a live demo. Who knows how that's going to work out, but we're going to go with it. Lastly, we're going to round out with some considerations, some best practices, some learned lessons, and then finally with some Q&A. So when we talk about duplicate records pose a rather significant problem in any type of database. When you're talking about our specific use case, which is receiving interest from students and then nurturing and generating that interest to then turn that into enrollment programs, you see things like confusion from the learner themselves. Maybe they're further down the process and they're maybe have applied, maybe they are almost ready to be a closed won opportunity, and then suddenly they may jump way back into the early stages of your funnel, and they're getting nurturing messages like, hey, please apply, but they've already applied. So it can be quite confusing to an ASU learner. Also, when we're talking about our users, we have records that are assigned to different coaches. And so if you've got a coach that is trying to encourage a student to apply, well, at the same time, you have another coach who's delivering the same message of, hey, thanks for applying. We've got everything we need. Just sit back and wait for the admissions decision. That's a completely, that's so confusing for our users. Also, because we're actively communicating with our learners, we run the risk of damaging the ASU brand. One thing that we like to do is have a consolidated user record. We want to have a single voice of ASU, an authoritative voice of ASU. And so if we're giving mixed messages, we're damaging our brand is, hey, does ASU really know what they're doing here? Thirdly, we've got manual cleanup. It takes potentially a lot of time, both from the user perspective to request the cleanup, as well as from the administration side to be able to then process that cleanup. And then finally, if you roll those all together, what does that boil down to? That's right, dollars and cents. It costs money to have duplicates, both to generate leads, to nurture them, and to finally manage them. So with that, we're going to keep on with our solution. All right, so in the Ed Plus org, we've got layers, if you will. Our first layer is the interactions. What this is a single point of entry for interest. Our requests for information come in through the single point of entrance. Our applications come in through this single point of entrance. Our data loads come through the single point of entrance. The reason for that is we have an entire engine that searches across our existing contact database to see whether or not this individual already exists. If they do, we're going to update their record. If they're brand new, we're going to create new records. So we already have a layer of protection here. But unfortunately, that's not quite enough. So we turn to nightly jobs. We've got a couple different products that are running. They perform nightly fuzzy matches against our database and automatically merge those records together. Unfortunately, still, that's not quite enough. So we've called this object merge within the admin team. We've called this object merge, and I'll get into what that actually means. But we're hoping that this is the final layer of our wonderful, delicious cake. All right, so we've now identified the problem. We've identified and we understand what the landscape looks like. Let's take a look at some project goals. First and foremost, at Ed Plus, we love to empower our users. We love to give them the tools necessary in order to do their jobs better and with ease. We also want to make sure that whatever we give them, we make it easy on them. The biggest pain point or the biggest resistance to adoption is friction in using it. We had whatever we delivered, we needed to make sure that it was better than what it was. We need to streamline the process. We continue to grow, we continue to scale. We needed something to essentially unburden all the users while still being able to manage the database. And finally, what would all this be for if we didn't close the gap? So those are our goals. So what kind of metrics are we looking at? What kind of metrics are we needing to take a look at in order to see whether or not we've hit our goals? User time savings, user satisfaction, i.e. feedback, a measurable reduction in cost, not only for outreach, but also for managing and maintaining our database. And then overall, duplicate reduction. Do we see that users are continuing to use the tool? If they're not using the tool and they're not letting us know about duplicates, then we haven't really closed the gap. All right, so if we boil that down just a little bit further, we come up with two kind of high-level pieces of our solution. We need a customizable tool that is as dynamic as our business partners. There's a lot of change, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of adaptation. We need to be able to marry this tool with their business process in order to make sure that it continues to meet the needs. Second, we need an automated process. We can't have our users continuing to request this in the same way and have our admins continue to process these in the same way. We have to do something different. So those are the two high-level kind of pieces of this project. We're going to go even further. So let's look at what that translates down to. So if you think about a way that a coach requests a duplicate, it's mainly because they've had a conversation with a learner. They've verified, hey, I've already talked to you today, or didn't you just call, or something of that nature. They also speak between coaches and use their own critical thinking. So whatever the source, whatever the solution needs to be, it needs to meet them where they are. Second of all, we need to have validation rules. Not only validation rules as far as what's entered, but rules by which we maintain and keep the data. We can't just throw this solution into a meat grinder and hope that everything comes out. No, the data is very, very important. We need to maintain the integrity of the data. We also need to protect ourselves from ourselves sometimes. So this is a very, very important. We're going to give them power, but we're also going to put up guardrails. And finally, automate, automate, automate. If it's worth doing, it's worth automating. So we're going to take whatever the user gives us, and we're going to put it into our grinder mabob with all our rules, and we're going to spit out a consolidated record. Okay, going down even further. So if we're talking about a on-demand solution, then that requires user input. Right there, that screams as far as like an action and a screen flow. So we're going to have the user request access, or request a merge by interacting with Salesforce. We need their input. We need to know what the duplicate records are. They need to identify both. And then we ask them questions as far as, what information should be on there? What's the actual name? What's the preferred name? What's the best phone number? And really, when it comes down to it, who really should own this record? Is it Coach A or is it Coach B? Excuse me. Excuse me. Then again, we need to validate the input before proceeding. We need to proceed with the request. And then finally, in order to make sure that we've done everything that we should and we have proper controls and reporting, we're then going to generate something in order so that we can monitor the process. All right, so here's kind of what we came up with. If you can squint at the GIF real closely, you might be able to see it, but we'll take it for a spin here in just a moment. So here's what we came up with. We came up with a mostly admin configured product. What it is, it's a contact custom action placed on the contact lightning record page. That's where our coaches usually do their work. Once they click that button, it calls an instance of a screen flow. Excuse me one sec. Sorry about that. I don't know where my mute button is. It calls an instance of the screen flow where a user is requested to put information such as the preferred name, their last name, their phone number, email address, things like that, things that are important to them. From there, behind the scenes, extrapolated away from the coach, we do validation. We check to see if the record is unique, i.e. they're not sending us two of the exact same contact records. We also check that they're not too disparate from each other, meaning that you're not going to merge a Jane Smith with a Zachary Quinto. I don't know why I came up with that name, but that's the name that I came up with. So if that happens, we're actually going to need to be involved because we don't want our users to merge records that are just too different from each other. From there, we actually invoke an Apex class, which validates all the field rules, and then both updates, clones, creates, and ultimately deletes the records in order for a consolidated record. And then finally, at the end of the process, we create a case. If the merge is successful, i.e. the user's within the guidelines and there's no downstream errors, the case is created with a closed reason just for tracking. If there's manual intervention that still needs to happen after that, the case is left open for the admin team to resolve. All right, here comes the risky part. Let's go into demo mode. hopefully everyone can see my screen. What I've done is, this is our QA sandbox because we don't test and prod. What we've got here is we've actually got three nearly identical records. They're not identical because Salesforce is not screaming at us. They have different information, whether it's a variation of the name, the email, or the phone. I'm logged in as one of our users. And so all I'm going to do is go up to the upper right here. I'm going to click duplicate merge. And here comes the modal. It's the information that's pulled from the existing contact. I have to verify that this is the right contact. And then I'm looking up using Salesforce's native recently viewed records. I'm going to grab one of these daydream records and put it through our machine here. Now, if this was the exact same record, actually, I'm going to go back here. This was the exact same record. So if I grabbed, let's see, I'm on Edward Dreamin. Get rid of, there we go. Get rid of that real quick. If we go to Edward Dreamin, which is the exact same record, you have chosen the exact same record. There is one of the validation rules. All right, so it sends us back to square one. Let's pick an actual different record. So this should be Ed Dreamin. We'll click next. Now we're given a list of data elements that a coach is very concerned about. So they can choose their first name, their last name, their primary first name, the primary contact email and phone number, as well as the owner. Just for sake here, I'm just going to leave these all default. I'm going to click next. Get a one-time, like, you're going to merge these. Do you want to confirm? And oh, we're done. But this asks if we want to add, if we want to do another one. I don't want to do another one. I just want to merge these records. So if I refresh my screen right here. Oh, the joys of real-time demoing. Thank you for your patience.
Patiently waiting. It's all good. This is maybe a good time to take a drink of water if you're okay.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Don't mind if I do. Still nothing, huh?
That's all right. Well, while we wait, if you have any questions, stick them in that QA part of the session. That would be helpful.
Let's see here. Did it take? It should have taken.
I see results.
I don't, though.
Oh.
I still see that these two are very much not merged.
Mm.
Let me try again.
Take two.
Yes, take two. Ed Dreamin.
Ed Dreamin.
They all look good.
Okay.
Confirm and merge. Oh, yep, I didn't go far enough. My apologies. They have conflicting information. They're a little too disparate. Do you still want to merge? Yes, I do. I want to merge. My apologies. I didn't go far enough. Helps to read the screen, I guess. Should add that as a key takeaway from this project.
Put it in the training doc.
That's right.
It's all about
read everything.
It's all about the documentation. There you go.
It is. All right. Congratulations. No, I don't want another one. So if we go to, sorry, we've got some toast messages that our users rely on. If we go to Ed Dreamin actually should be, I hate to refresh again, but I need to. Ed Dreamin should be deleted. The opportunity should be reparented. Any other related records should be reparented, and we should be good to go. Given how fast this is running or not running, I don't think I'm going to be doing another demo. Yep, see Edward Dreamin, it was Ed Dreamin. We now have two opportunities, Ed Dreamin and the other Ed Dreamin. So we've got a now merged record here, and we'll go to contact history, you'll see that Higher Ed Dreamin' took care and was able to edit all these fields, even though, and you'll see, even though really they only had access to maybe 5 or 6 different fields, they have access really through this tool to do a whole bunch more because of what this tool allows them to do. So they've actually changed, things like their military status, what opportunity is really their primary opportunity, things like that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the presentation now. Just like I said, just a little bit worried about how the sandbox is performing for me right now. So we'll just continue on. So let's take a look at the actual solution itself. What does it compose of? These are not in any particular order, other than really just more of kind of like chronological order of what the process looks like. So you first need the custom action on the contact record, which then calls the screen flow. Within the screen flow, we call actually just one Apex class. That's the validation Apex class, which is, are the records too far or too close together? Once the records are created, which are your object merge pair, which is number 4, that calls the second Apex class, which then reads the object merge pair handler records. Those are the records that define the rules by which the fields are saved. If there's a value in field A on record A and field A on record B, it compares those two fields, the values of those two fields, to determine what actually is saved. And then, of course, with any custom object, generally comes custom fields. And we'll get into the custom metadata settings here in just a little bit, just a touch bit, and that's more on the lessons learned. The custom metadata settings, and those were because of campaign member records. So as you can see, custom action, admin, screen flow, admin, custom objects, admin, custom fields, custom metadata settings. Those are admin capable configurations. The Apex class, yes, we had to help. We had help from an actual an open source as well as our developer, but you can see kind of the power of what an admin can do, coupled with what code and developers can do. With that second Apex package, I wanted to give a very special shout out to the Kyle Schmid in his GitHub repository. What really powers the solution is an open sourced product that Kyle and Chris and whoever C. Bolden is worked on. And what it does is it's really just an engine by which you create records, and then it spits out a consolidated record. Without this Apex class, really we would have had to build it from scratch. So it was really, really nice, and that really just speaks to kind of the Salesforce community and how great they are. All right, so let's take a look at how we did. With this product, we've drastically been able to reduce time. I mean, drastically. Coaches no longer have to request a merge. They usually would have to type out everything that they needed and then send it to the admins. The admins asynchronously would take that, digest the information, and then go and merge that record manually within Salesforce. We've cut out nearly all of that. So we've essentially redirected most of the coach's time back into doing what they do best, which is interfacing with our learners. Admins, we've taken the time back for ourselves to do what we do best, which is manage and configure Salesforce to meet our stakeholders' needs. There's nearly an instant resolution, whereas a merge could potentially sit for maybe an hour or two before. Now a coach can do it and get some sort of a resolution, whether it's, hey, this has been done, or, hey, thanks for letting me know, we'll take care of this here, nearly instantaneously. Of course, comes with that, there's a reduction in cost for the manual work, all the manual work that was needed to be done. There's a lesser cost because now our users are more encouraged, I guess, to resolve their own duplicates. And so hopefully that will also curb future comm spend and everything else related to cost reduction. And then finally, data cleanliness. A clean org is a happy org, right? So making sure that our data is clean, we have been able to accomplish that so far. All right. So let's talk about some challenges of the solution. First of all, excuse me. First of all, the field rules. As I mentioned earlier, all the field rules are handled in the object merge handler object. On the contact record, I wrote we have multiple hundreds of fields. We do. I believe we're north of 400 just attributes on the people itself. So with every new field, every change in requirement, it required not only someone to set up those rules, but also it's going to require someone to manage those rules in case something changes. Campaign members. As if you are in your org and you're using campaigns and campaign member records, and this is a solution for you, just note that you can't reparent campaign member records. It's not possible. What we had to do, and this is where the custom metadata setting is, we actually had to clone the campaign member record and essentially delete the old record. That requires that you set the audit fields, such as create a date, and all the other data points. Essentially, you're cloning it. So just a quick call out. And then finally, the kind of one of the most interesting ones is bypassing validation rules. We have validation rules within our orgs that for guardrails and data safekeeping. Sometimes, and we ran this flow in system context, which means that it's running a system as opposed to whatever their base level of permissions. But even still, it's still running as that user, and so we had to find creative solutions in order to bypass those validation rules. Key learnings. It's always interesting to see how far clicks can take you before code. This project is no different. We typically start with admin configuration, and when we hit a brick wall, we end up having to find programmatic solutions. I'm just thrilled that we were able to have a considerable admin capability within this project. Keeping it easy and dynamic. When we thought about every rule that we had to maintain, we had to keep them within arm's reach of our admin team or super user team because of the dynamics of our business and how fast we develop on the contact object. So we had to make sure that they were very easy to manage. We had to continuously eliminate friction, both in our system as well as from our users. So they were very instrumental in making sure that their voice was heard and their needs were met. And key learnings and best practices continue to empower your users. Our users, they tend to get energetic and excited when we allow them to do themselves. And in fact, that's actually shown in the feedback. I believe it's in our next slide. So here's some user feedback. This has only been live probably about a week and a half. But our users so far have been very grateful that we've delivered this tool. We've made it easy to manage the database. We've empowered them, and they seem to love it. So we'll continue to deliver for them. Finally, I believe, and I may be wrong, let's take a look at some ways that we can continue on with this project. Obviously, we want to make sure that we always have a pulse on what our users want, what our users need. So we'll continue to monitor and enhance. Because we have essentially a merge tool with a robust rules engine, we can now feed other duplicate blockers into this tool. We have an integration process that updates our contact object on a regular basis. When it runs into errors of duplicate records, it can now then turn and stuff those records into this merge tool and then spit out a consolidated record. The benefit of that, besides the fact that you've resolved a duplicate, is that on subsequent runs, there won't be those errors preventing the job from completing. Also, if we look back to our demo, the tool can only handle really 2 duplicates at a time. One of the possible ways that we can enhance this is looking how we can merge 3+ records at a time. Salesforce natively allows us to do 3. Wondering what that's going to take in order to get there, because we sometimes have upwards of 3+ duplicate records. All right, I was right. That was the end of that presentation. It felt like a whirlwind. What questions do you have? I hope you were able to stick with me there.
Hold on, Brandon. Let me get to the QA tab, and I will start reading out some of the questions for you. So
Great.
I'm going to go with the earliest question. Alan, Brandon, is Ed Plus using the same interactions unmanaged packaged that we are using? The one from Florida. We all know what that
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
for your question, Alan. Yes, that's 100% right. We're using the same.
All right, cool. Next question then is from Kason Johnson. How does this work with duplicate portal accounts?
I'm not 100% sure of what a duplicate portal account is. My understanding with this open source tool is that it can potentially merge any object and the related objects. So it can be configured to handle really a lot of different use cases. If you're talking about if these portal accounts are an object within Salesforce, then you could potentially use this tool. I can't say that with 100% certainty because I'm a little out of my depth here, but I would encourage you to take a look at it. It seems like it might be a decent use case.
All right, thank you very much. And let me keep going here. Thomas Winter asks, does this work for all objects or contacts only? First,
that's a great question. As far as I know, there's no limitation around specific objects. It should be able to work for really any object.
All right. And then the second part to the question is, does the merge overwrite one of the existing contacts, or does it create a new net record for the combined data?
That's another good question. It will. What it does is it overwrites then deletes the losing record.
Okay.
The only real time that we would be creating records is in the time that we can't reparent. So thinking back to campaign member records, we had to create there because we couldn't reparent. There might be other use cases around there, but generally we're updating and reparenting and deleting.
Great. And one from Francis Miller. Does this allow for the keeping of multiple email addresses, phone numbers, or is the losing data lost? Good question.
That's a very good question. It depends. That's my favorite answer. So we've got multiple email fields. When you think about the merge operation, it's comparing like fields. So if you're comparing the standard email field on one record to the standard email field on another record, and they both have data in it, potentially valuable data, one piece of that information, whichever it's the winning record or the losing record, whatever you don't keep essentially gets lost. If you end up tracking that field, you can see that in your history tracking. If not, no, it's gone. I'm sure because it is open source and we did have to do a sizable amount of customization to it in order to match our use case. I'm sure that there might be opportunities to take that losing data and put it somewhere, maybe in additional fields if it does store it, or maybe in some sort of like an audit record so that you can see what the losing data that you lost is. There could be many solutions, but that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, great explanation and great opportunities to look at. How are you permissioning the user? From Mike Walter.
Very carefully. So the user can see the button by way of dynamic forms on the contact lightning page. You can hide and show it based off of different attributes like custom permissions and profiles and things like that. So that's one way that we show and we hide that we permission our users. Next, because we ran the screen flow in system context, we didn't have to necessarily worry about edit and create permissions on records that the coaches don't even have access to. So that allowed us to bypass a huge amount of permission red tape, if you will. The final way that we were able to permission them is by within the flow, we set certain variables that allowed us to bypass BAU operations such as reparenting SMS records when the student is opting out of text, or when it's bad data and the validation rule knows it. We're able to bypass those by setting variables within the flow themselves. So a couple different ways, but mainly, like I said, system context on your screen flow was a huge savings for us in order to bypass a lot of those permissions.
Excellent.
Good question.
So in the next 3 minutes, we have a few more questions. We may not get to all of them, but again, we will share those with Brandon, and Brandon can answer those hopefully. From KZ, any challenges with sys duplicate merge versus Salesforce duplicate merge, or does one system feed the other?
Sys duplicate merge versus Salesforce duplicate merge. I'm not 100% sure what the difference of those are. Maybe we can connect and get some more information. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to answer that one.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, we'll get back to that one. KZ, I think I know what you're talking about, but we can connect you with Brandon. And then from
please.
Anonymous, who defined what a duplicate is?
That's a really, really good question. Most of the time it's defined by the business, because we have duplicate records that are, someone showed interest in 2019 that are now showing interest again in 2024. And based on their phone number or email address, they're considered two different records, but they're in reality the same person. We also have use cases where parents will start the process on behalf of their children or their dependents, and though the parent doesn't necessarily have any interest in ASU, it's technically considered a duplicate record because they're doing it on behalf of somebody. So really, I would say the biggest definition of a duplicate really comes from two different sources. Number one, what we've defined in Salesforce through our duplicate and matching rules. And number two, from our business. We rely heavily on their boots on the street, hard, knock it on doors kind of thing in order to help us identify what duplicates are. So we rely on their definition of what a duplicate record is too. Great question.
Good. All right, and I think we're going to have time for one more in the last minute here. I'm going to go to Alan. Have you had any issues with Alan Hutchinson? Any issues with inaccurate matches from the fuzzy matching logic? And scan that QR code.
You don't have to scan the QR code. It's actually kind of a joke. But have we had any false positives? Yes, absolutely. When we're painting with a fairly broad brush, it's always possible that we'll accidentally merge things that shouldn't be. We rely on a web of web of integrations in order to help us identify those, whether it be a middleware or whether it be a search tool, whatever that may be. Yes, absolutely. When that comes, we have to unwind it as best as we can. We do. I will take a quick plug though for Own Archiver though, or Own Recover. ASU just recently had an agreement with Own where we have their recover tool. So in the case of where we accidentally merge records, own allows us to be able to roll those back fairly easily. So low risk, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you, Brandon, very much. A lot of great chat going on, a lot of great questions.
Good.
We will have these questions available to us so that we can share with Brandon, and then we can connect you with Brandon. So thank you. This will also be recorded. We will see you in the next session, which is on the main stage. Come support our vendors. We're doing a 5 in 5 interview. So see you in 5 minutes over at the main stage. Thanks again, Mr. Tolbert.
Thanks so much for
Appreciate
coming.
it. All right.
I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Until next time.